Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Living Like LK. I'm excited to share with you 4 different rooms that I picked out, and I think they all have like a similar through line, which is I don't really have a lot of character in this space, but I want character, and I don't really know what direction to go in, but I want to go somewhere. So I know that all of these rooms are going to help you deal with some of the most common like design problems and challenges. If you're new to this series or this channel, I'll do a little quick brief overview before I get into it. Basically, this series was started to kind of give a little thank you to all of my subscribers every time I hit some subscriber milestones. I originally started this when I hit 10K, and then I think I did another one at 25K, and we went past the 50K mark last year, but I didn't get a chance to do one of these. So I really wanted to get one out there for you guys because I had a ton of different submissions, and I've basically taken some of my subscribers' submissions through a Google form and tried to address some of their design dilemmas. I absolutely try to work within their bounds, but I am also trying to make it aspirational as well, something to just really kickstart their creativity and get them inspired to try something new in their home. So let's get started on the first room. Okay, so our first person is Annie. She's actually a friend of mine in real life. She's asked me for some help, and she's always been a huge supporter of this channel, so I want to help her out. Just a little bit about her. She recently moved into a brand new home that's way bigger than her old one. She came from a smaller home that was built in like the 30s or so she has a lot of small pieces of furniture that are vintage or antique or family heirlooms. Her other issue is that she doesn't really want to live in this like millennial gray home, but she appreciates that it's brand new and it's a safe, clean place for her to continue growing her small family. Her main issue is this wall that she's got in her entryway that's across from her kitchen. And she was talking about maybe getting some kind of storage system there, which I totally agree with. I think one of those big mid-century wall units that's got some shelving and cabinets would be fantastic, but she was just sending me a credenza piece, and I felt like this was a great direction to start with, but it didn't seem like maybe this was the more modern style that she was really wanting. It felt a little bit more ornate and antique, and then also it just kind of looks like a random piece of furniture floating on the wall. So I'm gonna create this little mock-up of how she could kind of build out this little entryway because her front door is to the left of those outlets. So we're gonna try to go on that theme with it. And I found 2 pieces, or I guess 3 pieces on Facebook Marketplace. So the first was this big armoire, and it has that mid-century teak look to it, but it's very clean lined and simple. And I think that that's probably a better direction for her and her tastes. I also really like the fact that it just brings some height up to the wall so that it doesn't feel like everything's just super low. And then I found these 2 little tables that have these accordion doors where you can just shove some stuff away and pull it back down. They were probably office furniture, honestly. But putting the 2 together that match kind of mimic that like credenza that she's looking for if she can't find one that's her taste and within her budget. And it would give her that flat top so that she could dump her keys or put some other things on the table and have it feel more entryway-like. And so I just added like a little coat rack here for her jackets and a cute little art piece that I think would suit her vibe and her style. And then because she has all these plants and she really does still want to kind of use them as decoration, I want to kind of make them look a little bit more refined. So I found this cute little green and chrome stool on Facebook Marketplace for like 20 bucks. And I thought that she could get a terracotta pot and paint it a color like red, or find a really cool red pot just to have like a pop of color on this side of the wall to kind of, you know, deter from all of the gray and white everywhere. And then I think she could just continue to add more warmth to this space. So maybe a basket for the pot of her monstera, and then maybe mimicking the basket texture with a rattan lampshade on like a floor lamp just to provide some additional lighting so it's not so like bright overhead light in there and feels much more cozy, and it's like something to turn on the minute you get into the home. I found this one on Facebook Marketplace, and I don't think it's like the best thing out there, but I think it could work. I also think adding in another cute little lamp on top of this little faux credenza situation would just add, again, more lighting. And then I would just put some floating shelves that were the same size of whatever credenza piece she ends up getting above it to make it feel more of a unit and make this whole space feel a little bit more like unified. And she could use that shelving for, of course, like kitchen overflow, some of her decorative plates, you know, cookbooks, things like that. And then I think the final touch here to just finalize this entire entryway and make it feel a little bit more grounded would be to put a runner. And I'm not entirely fond of all of the washable rugs out there, so I was looking for something that was jute. And I found this one on Lulu in Georgia by Jake Arnold. And I love it because they have different colors like dark blue or dark brown, and it's got like a grid-like pattern, which kind of like adds to the modern aesthetic here. So this is like really really functional and purposeful, but also super aesthetically pleasing. But I think it's completely detracted from all of the gray and white. So we'll see where she goes with this space in the future. The one update I do have is she did find a credenza piece that she loves, and it's like this cooler mid-century modern piece. And so she's going to continue to build out from there. But I think if you have like a really big blank wall and you don't know what to do with it, this is kind of a general idea of how I would fill it out. So let's move on to the next person. Okay, so this is Morgan's room, and this one's got a lot going on, so let's get into it. She wants to turn this formal living room into her personal office and wants to paint the walls a deep burgundy, but is concerned that it might make the room feel a bit heavy. She wants to center her desk in the middle of the room, but leave enough space for like maybe a daybed couch. Some additional details about this room is that it's in a 1930s Tudor revival home. She really wants to highlight the architectural elements, which I think is absolutely the way to go. And she's planning to build a built-in bookcase around the arched doorway, which I think is a really fun DIY project, and that sounds really interesting. I'd love to see the pictures of that if you end up doing it. Also, her style leans towards an eclectic English country vibe, but I wanted to show you a way to bring in the burgundy without maybe feeling super overpowered by it. So I think the best way to go about this is to paint the ceiling burgundy and then to add in some more architectural detail. I think it could be really cool to double down on this English cottage style. So I would want to add some wainscoting, like maybe midway up the wall, and then I would paint that the same color as the ceiling. And I think that would just completely change the vibe of this room already. And then I would just add some molding around the ceiling and maybe paint it a dark brown color that still had like maybe that burgundy undertone. And then I wanted to add in some wallpaper in between those two. So I found this really pretty butter yellow floral print, and I love that the burgundy color is matching the ceiling, and then the green is kind of mimicking what's going on outside. And I think that soft butter yellow is a really great complement to the burgundy and the brown. I just love this combination. I think it looks really rich and kind of elevated and has such a country feel to it. Next, I think adding in like this like Ralph Lauren vibe just feels right to me in this room. So I would put up this like gorgeous like horse painting, something similar along those lines, feels like so cottagey and regal. And then these big like Ralph Lauren-esque drapes would be so pretty on this big window. And I would personally probably keep them open most of the time, but it's just nice to have something there to like block out the sun if needed. Plus it adds so much good color and contrast, and the plaid in here kind of has that brownish green undertone, which I absolutely love. And then I found this really dark chocolate brown mohair sofa that matched the curtains perfectly with the like really pretty wine colored piping on it. I thought this was like so chic and elevated. I loved it. And then I wanted to add a rug into the middle of the room so that you could kind of ground that desk space. And so I found one that was really complementary to the rest of the colors in the room, and I really like the texture and vibe of this one. And then I think what would really like seal the deal in this room is to have one of those partners desks, a desk that's big enough where two people could sit on either side and there's drawers on either side. I found this secondhand one online and I thought it was gorgeous, and I love the wood tone because it matches the tone of the floor. And then I think adding like a really cool structural lamp on the top with like a fun pop of color, like a bright primary yellow, would still be super complementary to this space but make it feel really interesting and unique. And then I would personally add in a Pollock chair. I think this is the perfect spot for a black and chrome one. I think it adds just enough of a contrast to make the space feel interesting and not super matchy-matchy, as the rest of it felt very like on theme with like a Ralph Lauren cottage vibe. So I think putting this in the center makes it just a little bit more androgynous, I guess, as well. I don't really think rooms are gendered, but you know, that's just my take on it. So Morgan, this is what I would do with your amazing front room if it was my office, and I would be obsessed with working in this space even though it is not my personal style. I think this would be a gorgeous space to be working in. So let me know what you think in the comments, and let's move on to our third room. Okay, so our next person is Lexi, and her main concern was that she wants the room to feel a lot more cozier and also have this English cottage style, and that she's also renting and can't paint but can hang things, and she wants to keep mainly the furniture that's in here. So I really want to address kind of what she said where she cannot paint. I feel like that maybe means that she feels that the room can't have any character or style unless she paints, but I think she could make the bed the entire focal point of this room, and it would add so much more cozy vibes and also really bring out that English cottage style that she's looking for. I think English cottage style beds are like so in right now to have one of these types of beds that's like full of different patterned sheets and quilts and comforters, and it feels super fluffy and you incorporate a lot of colors into it. And so I've kind of decided to add in more of a pink direction just because I saw the pink jacket on the clothing rack, and then the sheets that are currently on it look like they're pale pink. So I found these sheets that are more of like a dusty rose color, which I feel is like an earthy pink, which I think would be great in this room. And I think adding in some more pattern like these plaid pillowcases, as well as some of these check throw pillows, would just bring in more of that style that she's looking for. And then also adding in like a big, you know, chunky quilt on the end of the bed would just really make it more of a focal point and make it feel super cozy. And then she could really ground that whole space with a big rug just to make the floor feel a little bit more interesting, as it really isn't like a character moment. And this rug has that dusty rose color as well, and it also incorporates a pattern that's similar to the ones on the pillows. And I feel like even just doing this would make the whole room feel so different already. But I also think having some window treatments on the one above the bed as well as the one over in front of the clothing rack would add more texture and color to the space. And I would just move the clothing rack to the opposite side of the wall if you need it to be in the room, and then you can have more of that window treatment moment over there. And then I would maybe like mount the TV and put like some kind of dresser or credenza underneath that you could decorate and add another lamp on so that you're not just using the ceiling light. I would also maybe put 2 sconces above the side tables as they're quite small, and then it would leave some more space for you to just have all of your items there. And these could be plug-in, or you could even just put some like battery powered light bulbs in them or puck lights. And then just adding in some art that kind of feels more English cottagey in your style would be great. And if you could opt for an additional or replacement furniture piece, I would go with something like this. I found this one on Facebook Marketplace, and even if you can't find something with this kind of like character or detail, you could definitely DIY it to make it feel a little bit more cottagey and your style. But this would really just help you hide all of the visual clutter, and maybe you could replace the clothing rack with something like this and maybe get rid of one of the dressers. I would also probably put that full-length mirror on the opposite wall of that window that has the clothing rack in front of it, just so that you could reflect more light into that room. But yeah, I think this whole space is completely transformed by just focusing on the bed area, so I think that's a great place to start. And let's move on to our next room. Okay, so this is Cathy's family room, and I love what she had to say. She says, I would love some advice and fresh ideas on how to fill up and modernize this monstrosity. And I thought it was so funny because I actually grew up in a home that was just like this. It was like a tract home in a suburban area, and it had this like giant wall of like these big deep boxes. And I always wondered as a kid, like, what do you put in there? It's like so random. And I think my mom struggled with it as well, even though she did interior design herself. But I think this is a great one to cover because we can talk about how to decorate a bookshelf, how to style it, and just how to modernize some super random thing in the wall. So a couple helpful details before we jump in. Cathy says that this is the built-in entertainment center in her family room. It's terribly dated and plain, and she's been advised to tear it out. Everything feels too small for the large spaces, and she would like to probably tear it out, but she has a limited budget. And she also says that the TV can go because they barely use it. So let's start small here, and you guys will kind of see my vision build as we go through. So just like stay with me here. My first recommendation is probably to update the cabinet doors down below. I think they just look dated, they look builder grade, they look like they're from the 90s. And I think just replacing them with like a shaker style door that's super simple, or even just a flat door, would modernize this whole area just to begin with. And without knowing much else about her design style or taste, let's just stick with this wood tone. This update completely changes it already, in my opinion, but there's still so much more to do. So next, I think we're gonna bring that wood up into this bookcase with maybe some 1/4-inch plywood, and I would put it in the back of each one of these big holes so that it feels like this is more of a built-in furniture piece. And I would stick with the same wood tone as the cabinet doors. I just made it a little darker here for depth purposes. And then I would also cut up these shelves, or at least some of them, with some floating shelves. And I would use the same wood tone as the cabinet doors below again, so that this feels more like a cohesive piece of built-in furniture. Next, I would put in some really low profile puck lights that might be either battery powered or built in. Depending on your budget, built in would be better, and I think it would be totally doable in this unit. So now that we have your shelves and we've added in some wood and some lighting, I would just start adding in some really unique pieces. So I'm not really too sure what you collect or what your style is, but let's just start with a couple interesting pieces. So first of all, I'm sure you have some books that you could put on display, and I think just having a big section of eclectic looking books would be great. You could also like vary the way that they're standing up, so you could lay some on their side. You could just put two over here. You could also bring in some really fun bookends. I think this is a great way to show personality and just vary the book storage all over your bookcase. Next, I would add in some sculptural lamps in here. I say sculptural specifically because as this is a bookcase, I think you want to look at it and admire all of the cool, unique things that you love or that represent your style. And I think instead of just having a lamp in there, having a really cool lamp that you picked up from like the antique store would provide more of that like vibey lighting. And it does look like you have some kind of outlet connections in here. I'm not really sure if that is a actual possibility, but I found like this really cool, tall, skinny lamp that's directional that could like focus on maybe like a big bowl or something. And then I found this little mini lamp with a really nice shade that just adds some more texture to the bookcase. And then I found this bigger one that you could put on top where you don't have a shelf, and additionally just bring in some more light and more of a sculptural look. There are so many really fun, cool sculptural pieces that you can find secondhand at the flea market or at the antique store or thrift store. So I added in a few little random things in here. These are of course going to be representative of whatever you have or you like. I just found some fun things that I think would look good in this bookcase. I also think adding in some different types of art in here would be great. I think having some pops of color, like this green piece of art that's basically all green, or having this cute little round green frame, provides some variety and cohesion, but it also feels like it's a focal point as well. The textures I would focus on would probably be different types of metals that you like, different types of ceramic or glass pieces, sculptural pieces, some additional wood pieces, and then this beautiful like statement piece on top. I think because there's this huge archway, I think you really want to showcase something super cool and interesting. So I would be really excited if I had this project, because now you kind of have like a little list of things that you can go shop for secondhand throughout the rest of the year and find things that are like really within your taste and style, but also within your budget. So this is the best way that I would decorate this bookshelf, by just varying the shapes, sizes, textures, and colors, and providing some focal points. This is definitely one of my favorite videos to do on this channel, and I can't wait to do more. I have tons of submissions to go through, so make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell, because as I grow in subscribers, I will do more videos like this. I think the next one I should do maybe around 75K. So if we all subscribe and get there, we can do another one of these videos, and maybe I will address your room. If you liked any of the items in this video, I'll try to link as much as I can in the description below. I'll also put the link to the form if you want to submit your room for review to help you with some of your design dilemmas. And if you want to catch part 1 or 2, I will link those here. Other than that, I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.